Welcome to Beyond the Grave, where we look through the veil and dig into the supernatural. This week, join us in York, where we'll be exploring one of its most haunted buildings, discovering how the city buys into ghost tourism, and Dee Dee Deathly will be joining us on the sofa to tell us all about award-winning Ghost Walk, the Deathly Dark Tours. All of this and more still to come on Beyond the Grave. Today we're uncovering York's ghosts, and being the most haunted city in Europe, it's no surprise there's plenty of stories to uncover. From its cobbled streets to medieval buildings, there's said to have been over 500 hauntings within the walls. Pubs, hotels, shops and theatres all boast their own spirits, so we've decided to visit the Black Swan Inn to learn more about their ghosts and sightings. I'm outside the Black Swan Inn, which has been around since the 15th century. Now, I've heard some tall tales of men in bowler hats and pretty young women, and even a cursed chair by the fireplace. Let's see if we can go in and find some ghosts. This here is a replica pipe that the Black Swan Inn have. You see, this was found during restoration work on the building, and the workmen threw it out, and suddenly the whole pub went cold. They had to find it very quickly, and they've never let it out their sights again, just in case. There are also quite a few stories down at the bar of ghosts that frequent that place. There, for instance, is a... Did you see that? There's a man down by the bar in a... Oh my god. Okay, I think this room is haunted, guys. There are also plenty of stories of ghosts down by the bar. There's this one man who wears a bowler hat, looks a bit like Charlie Chaplin. People say he just tends to disappear. There's another story of this woman who sits by the bar looking longingly into the fireplace. There's another story of a woman who sits by the bar looking into the fireplace. And some people say that when men look into her eyes for too long, they just die of pure happiness. Guys, can we cut, please? When coming in for a pint, you may notice the landlord's cat, Salem, curled up on one of the chairs. But be wary, sometimes a more ghostly inhabitant is mistaken for the resident cat. Amongst the more famous ghosts, visitors might stumble across some lesser-known faces. From highwaymen to pickpockets, the inn plays host to some more unsavoury guests. Even the furniture isn't safe from paranormal activity. By the fireplace is a chair that may look ordinary, but when sat in will leave you cursed. Many people flock to the inn to try and catch sight of their ghosts by grabbing a drink, a bite to eat, or staying the night in one of their guest rooms. Even here, there's been reported sights of hauntings. A pair of legs have walked up these stairs. That's it. I'm getting out of here. The Black Swan Inn has so many incredible stories within its walls, but with all those terrifying tales in and around York's many buildings, where can you go to learn more about York's haunted history? Today I have someone who helped set up one of York's most successful ghost tours. While combining comedy and horror to tell tales of the grim, the foul and the infamous, the Deathly Dark Tours have swept up multiple awards for their ghost adventures. Here to tell us more about it is Dee Dee Deathly. Hello, welcome to the studio.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
So, you run a ghost tour business in York. Could you tell me a bit about how you set that up?
Sure. So, we always wanted to start our own ghost walk. My husband worked for various tour companies in the city. And then the pandemic happened and we found ourselves out of a job. And so we started live streaming on Facebook, just our daily walk around the Minster area, telling ghost stories. And we got so many people interested in watching it that we decided to go for it and make it a real life walking tour.
So how many people did you start with out of interest?
So low hundreds to begin with,
Okay.
and towards the end of our live streams it got up to 3,000 people.
Wow, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So on your ghost tour, what is your favourite story?
Okay, my personal favourite story is The Stick Man.
Okay.
And you will find him. He was an elderly rich man who used to live at 35 Stonegate, which is now Oliver Bonus. And he was paranoid that people wanted to steal his money in the middle of the night. So when the Minster bells would chime midnight, he used to hit the walls really loud with his walking stick. And apparently to this day you can still hear him hitting the walls with his stick.
And have you or any of your tour ever heard him?
No, unfortunately not.
Darn.
But there's still time.
Okay, so we're hoping one
Yeah.
day. One day. What's the most underrated ghost story in your opinion?
I think the most underrated ghost story is probably the ghost girl of the Antique Centre on Stonegate. Again, the same street. Stonegate is so haunted.
Particularly
it's ridiculous.
haunted. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, she fell to her death down the spiral staircase from top
Okay.
to bottom. So that's a bit of a tragic tale, but one I don't think you hear very much about.
Okay, interesting. And have you always believed in ghosts?
I think so, yes. When I was very young, I used to always dress up as a ghost. I think a lot of kids do that. It's fun to dress as a ghost, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just got more and more as I've got older. When I went to university, I had an experience of somebody sitting on my legs while I was asleep. And people say it's sleep paralysis, but I'm not convinced. Since then, there's been other things, like I moved into my new house and we believe it's haunted by a ghost called Edward,
Okay.
who his favourite thing to do is leave wet footprints in the bathroom
Oh.
when you're having a shower.
So
which is a
have
little
you
bit
done
creepy.
like any research into these hauntings and
We
tried to
have,
find?
actually, yes, that's
Okay.
where the name Edward came from. 'Cause we
Okay.
do have our own historian called Daphne,
Oh.
Daphne Deathley, and she found out that the man used to live in this house on his own called Edward, and it was a house for like 12 people. Notoriously, our street had so many people living in houses, and this one guy lived on his own. His name was Edward. He was a detective.
That's cool. Okay, so there we go, Edward. So circling back to the business, could you tell me a bit about the other people who work for the ghost tour?
Sure. So there is me behind the scenes, my husband, Dr. Dorian Deathley, who was the OG tour guide and now is one of 5 because we got so busy. And we've got Daffith, Dante, and Dalton, and Daria.
And of course, I've heard a lot about a particular member of your
Yep.
tour, Dougie.
Dougie the dog, yep, a little French bulldog, my
Aw.
boy, my love. He comes everywhere with me. Not here today, unfortunately. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
But yeah, he does like to be on the tours.
Well, I'm sure we'll all meet him on the tour soon, but thank you very much for joining us in the studio.
You're welcome.
In recent years, ghost tourism has been on the rise, with thousands flocking to old cities and abandoned villages to engage with the paranormal. Not only does it appeal to fear seekers, but it can be a fantastic way to learn about a place's darker history. Cities such as York have capitalised on this trend in tourism through their local businesses. But how successful is it? We've been on the streets of York to ask the public what they think. York, a place that is infamously known for its ghostly inhabitants settling their presence into the city's culture on every street. Join me as I question and converse with the alive and kicking residents as they pass through one of York's most peculiar streets. This is the Shambles. It is the best preserved medieval street in the UK, and it's also known for some of its ghostly businesses. So you're in the ghost queue. Why are you here?
I live in York and I've seen this store here for quite a few years, so I come here occasionally when I feel up to doing the queue. But they've got really nice stuff in there, nice like decorative items, collectibles.
What do you think of the overall experience of the ghost shop?
Yeah, it's really good. It looks beautiful in there. They really have a good theming going on, and like there's lots of hidden compartments and stuff like that.
So you say you've been here before. Have you bought ghosts before?
Yeah, I got a few ghosts.
How many?
I don't know, probably at least 20.
Okay, that's quite impressive. That's quite a lot. So what are you doing on the Shambles today?
One of my friends is visiting, and this is a pretty big touristy place.
Do you have any favourite shops on the Shambles?
I think the Ghost Merchant is one of the most famous ones.
Have you been into the Ghost Merchants
No,
before?
I've not been.
Are you
myself?
planning on going?
Yeah, at some point. Yeah, lots of my friends have been and they've recommended it. So yeah.
Brilliant. What are you doing here in York?
Oh well, actually for visiting, travel for fun. Yeah.
Brilliant. And are there any shops that you've been into that you like, or anything that you've done that's been good?
Well, I was trying to go to that York Ghost, but unfortunately it's really long queue.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Well, I mean, yeah, I believe there's something out there. I'm not necessarily sure it's ghosts.
No ghosts.
Yeah.
I think I believe in spirits. Yes.
Okay.
I'm not so sure,
Okay.
but I was convinced by J.K. Rowling. Maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
No, I've heard of other people having ghost stories. I've been at a workplace where someone would hear someone calling their name. They would go upstairs saying, you know, what is it? And they'll say, I didn't call your name. This is down in Stonegate, which is known to have like lots of tunnels underneath. And apparently there's a few ghosts there that kind of go between each shop. So there's like a lot of common ghosts there that people know about.
Located just a stone's throw away, we move on to yet another haunted attraction. This is the York Dungeon, where tourists are promised a very gruesome visit. But let's see what they think. So you've just come out of the York Dungeons. What did you think of the experience?
It was mildly traumatising. Yeah, my son got put in a cage.
Oh no.
My daughter was sentenced to death by a judge. So yeah, it went well.
So they picked on you a lot then.
They did a bit, yeah.
What do you think of the York Dungeons as like a tourist attraction in York?
I can see why it's really popular. It's authentic, the actors are really good, it's reasonable price considering. So yeah, I can see why it's popular.
So what did you think of your experience in the dungeons?
It was very scary, but it was good.
What was the scariest part?
Probably the bit where the witches were, and you went in the dark, and it was really scary.
That's a good bit, that's a good bit. And what do you think of the York Dungeons as a tourist attraction in York?
Yeah, I think it's really good. It's interesting and it's informative.
Well, doesn't that just give you the shivers? As entertaining as this was, I'm quite keen to head back to our not-so-sinister studio. York's business has clearly been inspired by its ghosts, and perhaps that's inspired you to get creative. I've made some spooky ghost earrings that are perfect for the Halloween period, and it's so simple that you can make them too. So you're going to need a couple of things for this demo. You're going to want a strip of white fabric. Felt's probably best for this, but any white fabric will do. About a medium-sized bead, pair of pliers, scissors, white string, and you want a couple of fixings. You've got these here which are called jump rings, and then some earring hooks. You can get them online or at any craft store, super cheap. And of course you're going to want a black Sharpie. So you're going to start by taking your white fabric. I've marked out about 6 by 5 centimetres, and you're just going to cut it like that. You're then going to take your bead, you want to put it in the centre of the fabric, fold it around to make a little ghost body. You then want to get a length of string. It doesn't have to be accurate, you don't have to measure it out. You're just going to cut it like that. You're going to wrap it around the ghost's head and then tie it off like that, which gives you a nice ghost shape. And then you just want to cut off the excess like that. So then you're going to take a jump ring. Here's one I did earlier because it's a little bit fiddly. And you just want to pass it through the top of your ghost head like that. You then take an earring hook and you're going to put it through the jump ring before you close it off with the pliers. So just put it through like that. Just use your pliers to close the ring. So then you have your ghost. But he doesn't have a face, and he's going to want a face. So you're going to take your black Sharpie, which I appear to have lost. Has anyone seen my Sharpie? Okay. That was spooky. You're going to take a black Sharpie and you just want to draw a face onto your ghost, maybe a pair of eyes, little mouth perhaps, and you end up with a ghost like that. You can get a little bit more creative, use beads, sequins, whatever you like, but it's super simple, easy as that. Well, that's all we have time for this week. We've investigated a haunted pub and scoured the streets of York for the public's take on profitable chills. Join us next week for more chilling tales from beyond the grave.